Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Let's hear a real good morning. It's raining in Omaha, but it isn't raining here. So let's say a good morning, Omaha. Good morning, Omaha. Good morning. Thank you. My name is Milton Kleinberg. I am from Omaha. Our business is senior market sales, 84th and Dodge. You see that big glass building there? On one side it says Morgan Place, on the other side is senior market sales. We are senior market sales. We have about 250 people working for us. We sell insurance worldwide. And I came to Omaha from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I grew up about 30 years ago. So now I'm told I can consider myself a native. So it's good to be here. Omaha is a wonderful city. I've been throughout the world, from one end to the other, from the best places to the worst of places. And Omaha is without question the best place I've been. So you all are very lucky. Here to tell you a little bit about the Holocaust. You've all heard about it, but no one is sure what it was. The Holocaust, as it is defined, is the sadistic, state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million human beings, and a quarter of them were children. Now this is state-sponsored. They designed it and sponsored it. And the reason they focused then is on the Jewish people. I was born in Habinitz, Poland, 1937, January 28, 1937. Oh my God, that's a long time ago. But I survived. It was, without question, the worst of all places and the worst of all times in all of Jewish history, which goes back 3,000 years, to be born Jewish. Those of you who study history must know about Hitler and Stalin. They were the first two tyrants. And in 1937, since 1933, they had total power over the population of Europe. And they were willing to turn the world upside down to get their way. When I was born, not too long after that, Hitler, which was the Chancellor of Germany, was ranting about Jews all over the world. He made it very clear that he wants us to destroy all of Judaism throughout the world. He even wrote a book called My Kampf. And in it, he explained exactly how he's going to do it. Of course, nobody believed him that he would actually go ahead and do it, but that shows you that when someone says that they are going to do you in, believe them, at least until you find it wrong. When the Ayatollahs of Iran are telling that they will destroy Israel as soon as they get a nuclear weapon, they believe them. And we believe them. The worst thing the president could have done is give him a pathway to weaponry. But anyways, let's go back to 1937. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland from the west. 17 days later, the Russian allies invaded from the east, dividing the country in half. The demarcation line was the River Bug, which is a main river that flows across. On one side was Russia, or the Soviet Union at that time. On the other side was Germany. 8 days after Germany invaded Poland, we saw Germany repressive measures against the Jewish people. They began to line them up, put them into ghettos. They, on Rosh Hashanah, I don't know if you all know what Rosh Hashanah is, but it's the Jewish New Year. They destroyed the synagogue and turned it into a barn. They annexed Western Poland and changed the name of it to Wetherland. That means that from that day we were actually part of Germany. One of the edicts that they put out, as they said, that no Jews will be permitted to live in any part of German occupied territory, which meant to us forced deportation. It also meant the beginning of the Holocaust massacre of people. 8 days on a September, I think it was, yeah, it was in fall, on a cold December morning. German troops surrounded our street, it's called Ulica Kościelna, and they forcibly evicted us. They came out the stairs with bayonets, with rifles, knocking on doors, and forcing everybody to the street. We had less than an hour to grab what we could carry and line up on the street. On the street, they lined us up 4 abreast and marched us down to the train station. I think we have the picture is back there. Center of town, they marched us down. Waiting at the train station was 15 to 20 cattle cars. The smell from those cattle cars were overpowering. It seemed like the cattle were just unloaded, and we were put into it. They had us packed so tight that we was barely enough room to turn around. After 36 hours on the train, without food, water, or sanitation, the train stopped in a city called Siedlce, and we were ordered out. The cold air hit us like a slap in the face. But actually, it was a little bit invigorating, because just to get out of those tight cattle cars. Then they lined us up again and marched us to a Jewish section of town, to a burned-out synagogue. The synagogue was still smoldering. It was, you could see the edges still smoldering. The smell of human flesh was just overpowering. Then they wanted us to get into the synagogue. Of course, we were all reluctant, fearing that once inside the synagogue, they would torch the synagogue again with us in it. But then a German soldier said, there is bread and water in there, but it won't be there very long. So we overcame our anxiety and fear, and we went in there. Inside, we found some room next to some relatives that were deported with us. And I was almost 4 by then, and my younger brother Herschel was 3. And as kids do, we were looking around. And we saw an elderly man with a white beard. He had a Jewish prayer shawl on himself and a prayer book in his hand, and was running around and talking out loud to an invisible person. The people in the synagogue just ignored him because they know that his wife and son were burned in the synagogue, so they thought he lost his mind. But my brother Herschel and I both talked to him and said, who are you talking to? And he quietly, with a penetrating eye, said, the angel of death. But where is he? He says, nobody but me can see him. But he says, as long as I say the Shema, which is a Jewish prayer, he won't take me. For 2 days we watched this tortured man running around the burned out altar and arguing with the angel of death. On the 3rd day, he came over to my mother, gave her some of his things, and to my father he gave some money he took out. He had wrapped up in a white handkerchief. He said, I will not need this anymore. He said, the angel of God showed me what the future has in store for me, and I want no part of it. Then, with a resolute voice, he put his hand on my left shoulder and said to him, you must cross the river Bug, which is the Russian side, and there's still some hope and life, but on this side there's nothing but that. I really don't remember him telling his name, but in his dream, he calls himself, in my dreams, he calls himself Abraham. Later, he walked over to the area where his wife and son was burned, took off his jacket, folded up, laid it carefully on the porch floor. Then he took off his prayer shawl, put it right on top of it, and carefully laid his prayer book right on the prayer shawl. Quietly, he laid down, rested his head on the prayer shawl, said his prayer for the last time, and he died. My parents took Abraham's words to heart. The next day, they went out and found a Polish guard whom they bribed to take us across to the Russian, to the other side of the river. The trip across the river Bug was tough and difficult in the winter time. However, I'm afraid you're going to have to get a book to find out that part of the story, because I don't have time. I could spend the whole time on that part of the story itself. On the other side, we were arrested by the Russian NKVD, which later became the KGB, and a few days later, they sent us to a Polish holding camp in the city of Białystok, which wasn't too far of it. In that Białystok holding camp, there were Poles of all nationalities, including Jews, and we were all earmarked for deportation deep into the labor camps. In that camp, we stayed there for a few months, and in February of 1940, we were loaded onto boxcars. The boxcars were a little bit bigger than the cattle cars, but the most important thing was the smell was gone. And in that boxcars, we traveled about 900 miles north to the most eastern part of the European Russia, a place called Arkhangelsk. Arkhangelsk was right next to the Finnish border. Arkhangelsk was a small town at that time with wooden homes and wooden sidewalks. There was a camp where everybody had to work, and my parents also were working in a Holocaust, which is a collective farm. We stayed in that place for over a year, and my youngest brother, Velvo, was born in that Arkhangelsk. Just as we were getting used to the place, the war broke out further. The German army invaded the Soviet Union through a 1,000-mile border. Those of you who study history, look for the name of Barbarossa. That was the name of the German attack. And when they attacked Russia, Russia started moving all the manufacturing and everything else back deep into the Russia or into Siberia. everybody together, but without that bread, basketball is certain. We were asked to get on trains again and go for resettlement. We didn't know it at the time, but actually the resettlement was the Central Asia, a place called Samarkand, Uzbekistan. That's the journey from Arhangelsk to Samarkand, Uzbekistan is a long one. It's 4,500 miles. The journey by train and under normal conditions would take about 2 or 3 weeks on the Trans-Siberian line. But those weren't normal conditions. We were traveling in the heat of battle. So the journey was extended from 2 to 3 weeks to 3 months, horrific 3 months. This time on the train in boxcar that we were in, there were 35 people, men, women, children, and even grandparents were in it. And the journey was long and arduous. And we didn't know for sure what would happen from moment to moment. At that this time there was 5 of us traveling. My mother was nursing Bedouin. I was responsible for my brother, younger brother, Herschel, and my father was responsible for getting off the trains and stops and bartering food for some of the trinkets and that. That's how you supplemented those ration cards. Someplace between Omsk and Novosibirsk, which is about halfway down the trip, Father got off the train to barter for some food, and he never came back. We stayed there for 2 days, and he never came back. He never showed up. That meant that my mother, my brother Vedable, Herschel, and I were stranded. But the worst of it all was that he took with him the money, the ration cards, and all our passports. We were strangers in a strange land, couldn't even tell people who we really were. And I tell you, in Russia at that time, you didn't want to be without those documentation, because without them, you couldn't go get anything. We were completely dependent on our neighbors on the train, who themselves barely had enough to take care of themselves. Then, a woman, a Polish woman, who also went very bad luck after she left Poland. Her husband died in Arhangelsk. Her son, which was a friend of mine, a little bit older than I was, died in an accident under the train. My mother befriended her and helped her take care of the baby while she was undergoing terrible, terrible times. Then she came over to my mother on the train and wanted to thank my mother for her kindness during her black days, as she called them. She was clutching her baby. And then she gave my mother her passport, 3 ration cards, and said, "Your name is now my name. The Russians won't be able to tell us apart, so use them sparingly, because you will need them." And sure enough, that woman most likely saved my life. However, it was too late for my younger brother, Venable, who died from typhoid and malnutrition on the last day of the train. In fall of 1941, the sliding door of the train opened wide. A tall, blond Russian soldier screamed out loud, "Welcome to Samarkand, the jewel of the Orient. Take everything with you, because you're not coming back to the train." supplement the labor pool there. Samarkand had two commodities that needed a lot of people. One is tobacco, and the other one was cotton. In Russia at the time, everyone had to have a job, because the job determines your status, it determined your dwelling, it determined where your kids went to school, it determined everything you needed to survive. My mother's first job was in a cotton gin. She and most of the women would sit on the little benches and pick out seeds from the cotton, separate them from the cotton. I don't know if anybody here had any dealings with cotton, and you will know that this is a very hard job. The problem was that at that time in the Soviet Union, that cotton gin didn't get there yet. I'm sure we have it by now, but that was just hard work. A year after she worked in there for just about a year, then she had a friend, Haya, who worked in the tobacco factory. Tobacco factory work wasn't easy, but the two of them arranged a scheme where they could steal small quantities of tobacco, share it with the commissar, and share it with the guards. Tobacco in Russia was more valuable than money. It was the perfect currency to barter and to bribe officials. Nobody survived in Russia without bribing. So the two of them organized that scheme, and that was very, very helpful to get extra rations that we needed. A year in 43, my brother Herschel came down with malaria. In spite of my mother's skills of bartering and medications and others, he died from malaria. That was absolutely devastating to both of us, and we didn't overcome it for a very, very long time. Then, my mother with her friend Haya saw a letter posted that they have a Polish children's home, specifically designed for people who were deported from Poland. And she managed to get me in. That place was located on the old Black Road outside Samarkand. The old Black Road is going back in history. It was the Silk Road. Silk Road used to go right through Samarkand and all the way to Iran. That Black Road was dangerous. Everything about the Black Road changed except the bandits that roamed it. So whenever she had to come and see me, she had to hire people to come with her to see me. In that children's home, I came of age. I found two like-minded boys, Fyodor and Edmund, and together we formed our clubhouse and back over the outhouse. And we called it Argentina. It's an interesting story why we called it Argentina, but you'll have to read the book. Because that has a story of its own. In 43 was a dangerous time. What we used to scheme and plan there is how to raid the orchard across the street, across the Black Road, and how to raid the vegetable garden, which was a mile down the road, a mile down on the Black Road. One day we were sitting there in the bushes, hiding, waiting for the last workers to leave. And all of a sudden, the last two people were on his back in Russia. An argument broke out between them. His back pulled his curved knife, cut the Russian. The Russian grabbed went in his pocket, grabbed a switchblade knife, and stabbed to his back repeatedly until he fell to the ground. The no, I'm going to stay here and find the knife. And after a while, Piotr stayed with me, but Edmund went back. And I found the knife, cleaned it up, and put it in my pocket. That knife was a lifesaver on several occasions. And one of those occasions, a wagon, horse-drawn wagon with apples in them, got a little bit close to the edge, and some apples spilled into the ditch. So the three of us jumped into the ditch. We stopped our shirts full of apples, got up on the black road. We were going to go back to the children's home, and all of a sudden we saw on his back on a donkey. He was drunk. He was weaving back and forth, very, very holy on. He was swearing in both his back in Russian, very, very loud. When he saw us, he dismounted, came over, and in his native language, he called us a corruption, which means thief. I'll teach you kids how by stealing apples. And then he took out his quick knife and took a swing at my throat. I jumped back with my hands outstretched. He missed my throat, but he got me on the right armpit. Then my friend Piotr, who always carried a stick with him, a walking stick, and he hit to his back besides the head. His back went down on his knee, and the knife fell on the side. Then, when his back was trying to reach for the knife, my adrenaline kicked in. I grabbed the knife and stabbed his back, first in the throat, and then in the stomach. The blood streaming out of his back's throat, and his shock stayed with us for many years. Something we haven't forgotten. The Uzbek somehow managed to put himself together, get on the donkey, and the human cargo with his back, walked down the black road to the gate of the orchard, where the donkey stopped, and the Uzbek fell down. He died. There were several other occasions during that year. We had one time we had to save friend Edmund was kidnapped by a Russian soldier, and one time I was stealing peaches from our wagon, and someone shot at us, and I thought they were trying to scare us. Well, hell, they sure scared us, and we kept on running. The thing is, we didn't realize that when we got to the children's home, Piotr says, "Mendel, take a look at your knee." I was hit in the knee, and it missed the bone, thank goodness. And also, there were other kinds of things, but it's, like I said, you don't have to get the book to see all that's going on in that life. But life was very difficult, and we managed to hold ourselves together as a team, and we were friends all the time. In 1945, May 8, 1945, the war ended in Europe, while the rest of the world was jubilant, celebrating the end of the war. The surviving Jews were not that jubilant. The disaster that happened in Poland, we didn't know it at that time, because it, prevented anybody from being jubilant about what happened. The war in Asia, with Japan, ended 3 months later. At the end of hostilities, the children in the children's home and all the staff reported back to Poland, a city called Breslau, to our children's home there in Breslau. In Breslau, my three brothers, my would you believe it? I was reunited with my lost father. Can you believe that? You know, when he came to pick me up, we looked at each other. We saw different things. But anyways, he had one catch to it. By then, he already had a wife and 2 children. And my mother was coming back to Poland 2 weeks later to a very big surprise. And you can all imagine that surprise. In Poland, city of Providence, before the war, it was a Jewish city. A good church, the Jewish neighborhood had Jewish signs, peddlers running around. The windows had Jewish signs, and sound, the noise of Jewish life was all over it. After the war, you couldn't find a recognizable Jewish face in the entire city of Providence. The Jewish signs, the peddlers, the song was all known. It was as though the entire 1,000-year history of Jewish life there was wiped off the map. It was just spooky. We couldn't believe our eyes what has happened. But to add insult to injury, our neighbors who survived made it very clear that Jews were no longer welcome in this new Poland. So as Jews had done hundreds of times before, in fact, after we left our shattered lives and moved on. My mother went to Breslau to get me. In Breslau, she was sitting on a bench, very depressed, didn't know what to do. The first order of business is to get a divorce. Jewish they call it a get. Because in Judaism, without a get, you're not free. Period. I think it's almost similar to how it used to be in Canada. You have to get a divorce in order to be free to be married. Next to her sat down Milton Kleinberg, who became my father. And they started talking. And my father had a brother in Belgium. After a while, they headed off and they started making plans how to get to Belgium because my father's, Aaron's brother had a restaurant in Belgium and he wanted him to come work there with him. So we again packed our bags and we had to escape Poland for the second time. And this time it's for good. The Jewish organization there helped us get across to Germany. West Germany. Germany was then divided into 4 zones: American, Russian, and British zones. We ended up in a DP camp, which is a displaced persons camp in West Germany. We stayed in West Germany for about 5 years. We tried twice to get to Belgium, but every time we got caught and sent back. So we spent there about 5 years in a camp called Wasseruitingen. My mother married Aaron, and my sister Bessie, and both were born there. In 1951, the DP, or displaced persons camp, were being liquidated. So we got passage and an American ship called General R.M. Bletchford. And on May 14, 1951, we came to America on a beautiful ship. Wisconsin, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we took a train from New York to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And there, our happy life began. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I went to high school. I signed up in the war. I was in the war in Korea. And little by little, I had a tremendous success story. I don't know how much time I have. Do I have more time?
You have a few more questions.
Yeah. Now you can ask questions. Don't be bashful, ask questions.
You got one right here, Milton.
Yeah. Oh, what did what? You talking about my birthday? My birthday, he had a wife and 2 children, and they, in 1951, they immigrated to Israel. My current dad, which I call real dad, we came to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He worked in Ellis Chalmers, and we had a very good life. My mother lived, she died 2 weeks shy of 98, so that was incredible. Anybody else? Okay.
Did you ever witness the camps?
I can't hear you.
Did you ever witness like the camps? I've been learning about from the concentration camps, the German, Polish camps. Do you happen to witness any of those? Or?
The German concentration camps, I didn't go to visit the concentration camps. But my children, my grandchildren who moved to Israel, their high school send the children to concentration camps, Auschwitz, every time. And and every time they go to those camps, they would call and say, "Grandpa, we're going to be close to where you were born. Can you tell us something about it?" And I would sit up after night and write them an email, had to make it short, and they would read it to their friends, and they all liked what they heard. And as a result of that, my grandkids and my siblings and others that were born after the war wanted me to write down the story. And that's how I happened to write down the story. In 1910, I wrote the first book, which is called Memories of My Childhood During and After the Holocaust, 1937 to 1951. It was a large 5-color book, and I only printed 500 copies in English and 200 copies in Hebrew. It was self-published. I didn't think anybody would care for it. And then a couple of years ago, the director of the Institute of Holocaust Education said, "We need to reprint your book because of its uniqueness to be a manual for high school students." So I did do that, and the book really took off. Now it's sold everywhere, it's on Amazon and all venues, and it's an audio version of it. was $75. Nobody would buy it at that price. And they also wanted to have lessons. In my book, the history is interwoven into the story. Here, the history is separated on the side page, so when the teachers teach you history, they can use the history from the book. Anybody else? Yes.
How many times were you beaten in the concentration camps?
How many what?
How many times were you beaten? Like kids, subs were thrown at you?
I didn't quite.
You want to know how many times you were beaten or abused while you were in camps and labor camps and stuff? How many times were you beaten or abused?
Oh, and labor and slave labor camp. The one thing about the Russian slave labor camp, which is different than the German concentration camp, and that's an important point. You know, the German concentration camp were not designed for anybody to survive. The main issue was to exterminate older Jews in the most horrific way. The Russian labor camps were designed for work. Everybody was put to work, hard labor work. And of course, many people died of hunger and cold there as well. But it wasn't deliberately designed to kill people. And the Russian labor camp did not distinguish between Jews and other people. Russia never treated well anybody, not including your own people. Yes.
What happened to the two friends that you met in the children's home? Were they from the United States too?
No, there's these two friends, we parted company in Breslau, and we never saw them again. The basic problem is I didn't know their exact names and the exact status. Yes.
Did any of your other family survive? What he was asking about?
Of the 105 members of our immediate family, only I and my parents survived. They all perished in concentration camps. Yes.
Do you still think about when you were a little boy?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sometimes when I tell the story, I close my eyes and I can see right in front. I gotta keep my eyes open, otherwise I'll break down.
You probably have time for maybe one or two more questions.
Yes?
What overall would you suggest to anyone anywhere? What most did you learn from these experiences?
That's actually a very good question. The reason I'm going around and talking about this is history is repeating itself. And evil exists and continues to exist. You have to understand and recognize this when you see it. The radical Islamists, and I'm not talking about all Islamists, I'm talking about the radical Islamists, are the new Nazis. They are sponsoring a Holocaust against Christians in the Middle East and Africa. And when you recognize these evil doers, you have to speak up. For the Jews, there was nobody to speak up. But unless we speak up and all of you speak up and pay attention to it, it will creep up and engulf us all. For evil to succeed, to move forward, is for good people to do nothing. That's going to happen. So whenever you can, you hear the support of Christians or other minorities who are being persecuted any place in the world, you have to speak up. Yes. My two sisters that were, Bessie and Goldie, that were born in concentration camp, live in Milwaukee. They have families and they're still alive. As a matter of fact, my nephew works in the business with me and they're doing quite well. Another interesting thing I might as well point out. When I was 65, I applied for Social Security. The people, the administrator said I should provide my birth certificate. So I started laughing. I said, I don't have a birth certificate. It was destroyed during the war. So the man kindly said, humor me. He gave me an address to write to the Warsaw Embassy in Washington, D.C. and ask for your birth certificate. If they find it, you will have it. I said, what if they don't find it? I said, then you are the date you were born. Because my birth, I have two birth certificates. One is January 1st, which I thought I was born. And then the birth certificate showed that I was actually born on January 28th. So I have another birth certificate. So when I go for Social Security, I put down my birth certificate January 28th, not January 1st. But the most important thing about this is when I had my birth certificate, they sent it from the Warsaw Ghetto. It was, from Warsaw Embassy. It was written in Polish. From that birth certificate, I could find out my mother's maiden name, and the important, and my father's spelling of his name. The significance of that, if you do a family search, unless you know the spelling of the people, you don't know how to find them. So when I found out my mother's maiden name, her maiden name is Hopchin. Can you imagine trying to spell that? You can't even sneeze it. But I found that in Israel, genealogist who said he spoke Polish, Yiddish, German, and they opened the archives in Eastern Europe so you can go and look for your parents or your relatives. So I sent that to him, and wouldn't you believe it? He found I found out that I had 4 half-sisters and a half-brother that live in Israel. So in 2009, I went to Israel, and we got together. So our family has extended. So from being just a small family, now I have a large family.
All right, I think we're going to end the question section at this point. Let's give Mr. Kleinberg a round.